this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Last thing of the day. Thinking of you good people, of course. I'm going to be out all day tomorrow, so there won't be any videos loaded tomorrow, and it just dawned on me that if I get this done today, I can just post that first thing tomorrow so that you've got something for tomorrow. And then it'll be Sunday after that. Talk about plans changing. The reason I couldn't get my viewing until tomorrow, Saturday, was that the tenants had been pinged. So they've had to isolate for 10 days. And guess what? One of them is now actually sick. So my viewing has been cancelled until sometime next week. But I'm still going to visit the property to meet the landlord and have a chat, introduce myself, which he's keen to do, which always sounds good, and show me around the grounds and, you know, what I'd have access to and all that sort of stuff. And that's at 10 o'clock in the morning, so I've got a relatively early start, but it means I'll obviously get to the garden party on time. I might have a bit of time to waste somewhere in there, we shall see. But hopefully it means I might be able to film, but I'm not guaranteeing that. So that's tomorrow now, and so we're back to some sort of normality on Sunday. You don't normally see me drinking white, but it's quite a warm day and I've had a fair bit of running around to do today. My eldest son and Hannah came round this afternoon. They went round to see Mum, and that's upset Hannah. Thought it would. Anyway, so that took up part of my afternoon when I was supposed to be getting stuff sorted out for tomorrow. I mean, I've even gone to a car wash to get the car cleaned up, you know, good impression and all that, because it got quite muddy last time I went to Hannah's. Right, so this is the last of my Masdevallias and or Draculas in moss. And I put it in the moss, so it's not going to be compacted or anything like that, but the plant's been in there a while. So that's my main reason for dealing with it. It's also got some scale around the base of some of the leaves. So I shall have to give it a spray with my new spray. So I've been waiting for this to show roots. Now it's not showing many, but it's showing some. And that's more than it had when it went in the moss, because it didn't have any. It was one of those that arrived with virtually no roots, and I had to deal with it. So we do have some roots now, which we will treat with great care. As I said, I put this in the moss, so it's not going to be compacted. There's not going to be a plug in them. Oh, that is niffy, it's been in there too long. But we do have some viable roots, and we do have new growths. So I suspect some fresh media and this will pick up. Yeah, the moss is just falling off quite easily. So that's how it should be. Not rammed in. The handle of the hammer. Not supposed to be in tight. You still need some air. Obviously there's quite a few dead roots in the middle, but coming down from the middle are also some live ones. So I'm not going to go mad cleaning this up. Run under the tap as usual. Just teasing this off. It's just falling off, which is what I was hoping. And it does reveal that there are some reasonable roots. There's areas like this where I've got dead roots. Yeah, well, they can be trimmed because I can see new roots starting up there. They will progress an awful lot better if they get into some nice fresh media. That should do the plant the world of good. I'm going to give this a spray with hydrogen peroxide, not because I think it kills the bugs, because I don't think it does, but it's basically, there's quite a bit of algae and that round the base of the plant, so we'll give it a bit of a clean up. So a quick trim, and it's just areas like this with dead roots, going careful. See, there's a live one there. So just getting rid of these dead roots in areas where there are quite a few. If there's live roots in amongst them, they may end up staying there. So we'll have a careful tidy up. You know, when you've got a, you know, it's not a poor root system, but it's not a healthy, strong root system, if you see what I mean. I thought that might happen. That bit was like hanging off. Not to worry. I think it went in as one plant, but obviously you do get, you know, on Masdevallias, you do get some parts of the plant that die back in time, you know, and sometimes they can be, you know, quite a large area, and that area is better off the plant, and that often means dividing it. So these pieces are just coming off in this area. This is where there's quite a bit of dead stuff. Now those two little pieces that have just come off, so there's no live roots on there. There's no live roots on there. They're not worth messing with. I just want to put what's left, which it looks like pretty good stuff. There's another little bit there. I think I'll use the scissors. They should just, you know, if they're old and, you know, dying back, they should just come off like that. So we'll run with that. So run under the tap. Hydrogen peroxide first. It's not going to do a lot of good on the roots because the roots are wet, because the moss was wet because it got watered not that long ago. I hadn't planned on doing this today. But we'll give it a go, and hopefully it will just kill off the green around the base of the plant, tidy it up a bit, and yeah, quick trim and tidy up the mess, and I'll be back, and we'll get, you know, the media for that is just going to be the standard stuff that I'm using now. So it'll be the a major amount of the cocoa husk to retain the moisture, and then some bark to stop it compacting, and, you know, that sort of thing, and a bit of charcoal. Quite a discussion on the charcoal on one of the comments, or several of the comments actually, on the grounds, does it actually do any good or not? And one person said that that by using the wood charcoal, they virtually eliminated their algae that they used to be getting when they just used bark and or moss. So they said it does seem to help. Somebody else said that because the charcoal absorbs what it sees as impurities, the chances are your fertilizer is going to be treated as an impurity, because it's not pure water, is it? So it's something, so chances are the charcoal may well absorb some of your fertilizer, which is not so good, because it would see that as an impurity. Yeah, so the chances are, depending on how frequently and how high your feed is, the charcoal could end up getting full up relatively quick, if you see what I mean. So how much good it does is debatable. I'm still sat on the fence on the grounds I don't think it does any harm, and I've got some, so I just as well use it, and I'll be back and we'll use some. Here we go, getting things wrong again. Everything in this video prior to this bit that said tomorrow, by the time you see it, will actually be today. I'm going to post this Saturday morning before I go. The first of you that view it, I'll already be on the road, won't I? I'll be on my way. Yes, so get that straight. Right, I had to put some of this into soak because I forgot before I started. How long does it need to soak? About that long, I reckon. I've got white wine for two reasons. I got a bit hot and flustered this afternoon trying to get everything I needed done for tomorrow. I need to get some food to take, it's a picnic, to wash the car, so, and with people visiting, they said they would get here late morning, and they got here sort of like more like mid-afternoon really. It's now past the time where I should be getting my tea, and I've got a nice piece of wild Alaskan salmon for tonight, hence the white wine, so killing two birds with one stone. White wine to go with the fish, and because I'm a bit hot and flustered, and my tea should be cooking now and it's not. Right, so we've got some of the small Burnham's bark, hand picked out most of the rubbish and the bigger bits, because this is a mix really. Then we'll add our cocoa husk. That's had a reasonable soak, so as I said, because this is the sort of plant that needs to stay moist, if I put this stuff in the mix dry and then water the plant, tomorrow it'll be dry again. because the bark will take the moisture, and quite honestly, watering this stuff when it's absolutely bone dry, which it is, doesn't get it that wet. So the frequency has to really be stepped up until it starts to soak it in and get it totally absorbed, and then it holds its moisture for some time and you can go back to your normal watering cycle. And we will add some charcoal. You can debate whether it does any good, whether it does any harm, but it's going in there anyway because I bought it. So I'm using it. And many people I know use it. I haven't seen any videos on YouTube whatsoever of people saying, "Oh, I've been using charcoal, it doesn't do any good at all," or worse still, "Oh, I've been using charcoal and it seems to do harm." So as far as I'm concerned, it's okay to use. A lot of the professional nurseries use it. You know, you often, if the trouble is, I'm not on about the mass producers. They wouldn't use it because they'd have to pay for it, wouldn't they? They get everything as cheap as possible, and that's the mix they use. They don't like spending money because it reduces their profit margin, or they have to put their price up, and then some of the mass sellers, like supermarket chains and things, wouldn't buy from them. They'd go somewhere else. So it's all a big business thing. But that's why they use the cheap rubbish, because the idea is to get the plant to blooming size, get it to bloom and chuck it out the door. So they don't want to spend any more money than necessary. But if you go to an orchid nursery, somebody who actually grows plants and possibly hybridizes, you know, divides and does all that sort of thing, you'll often find charcoal in the mix. So one would assume they know what they're doing. Is that a reasonable theory? Right, this is going back in the pot it came out of, having had a good clean, obviously. It's had a clean up and a wash, and I've planted Masdevallias with much worse roots than this, and quite honestly, when this was put in the moss, it had no roots, so that's better than no roots. And some of these are relatively new and active, so and there's new growths. New growths means more new roots, so I think this is going to pick up reasonably quickly now in some nice fresh media, because there's nothing for the roots to complain about. Now I'm not going to crock this pot, even though it's an air cone pot, simply because I'm going to plant the pot deep. Oh dear, oh dear. I'm going to have another mouthful of wine. And that is the first one, and it wasn't a full glass. I'm going to plant the plant deep in the pot. There we go. Now, to stop roots snapping by pushing the plant down to where I want it, twist the pot gently, and the roots will form like a spiral, and then you can get the plant down where you want it. All right, as I said, I want this relatively deep, and a lot of the reason for that is because it will be more stable, because the leaves will flop over and touch the sides, so it becomes self-supporting, if you see what I mean. Now again, the roots are delicate, so we won't be using the handle of the hammer to actually press this down. The watering helps that, the tapping helps that. All sorts of things help settle media without poking too hard. And I've found that with the cocoa husk and the smaller bark, you can come quite high up the plant. You shouldn't bury the base of the plant. You should be able to see the base of the plant, but you can come right up to the base of the plant. And then what we do is we have a look round and we look for things like that, which is a gap. And I'm prepared to do a little bit of poking just to fill that gap up, because it's a Masdevallia. And then having poked down there, we've got room for a bit more. Right, any more? No, happy with that. The only thing I don't like when I repot something like this, I've waited a long time for a show of roots on this plant, and obviously you can only see those roots when they're on the side, you know, on the edge of the pot, and you see them through the side of the pot, and then when you repot it, they're all gone again, and you sort of think, well, I haven't got any roots now. Well, the roots are still there, they've just been tucked into nearer the middle of the plant. which means of course they will stay moist better than if they were right on the edge of the pot. So that's that. That'll get a good watering now. It's reasonably settled. Being a Masdevallia, the media needs to be quite compact, but still has air. Never forget that. Yeah, even when you've got a plant that needs to stay moist, it's also still needs to air. And even when you move on to terrestrials, which would need a much more compact media to represent actually growing on the ground, or in the ground even in some cases, so much more compact, there's still air. There's still the requirement for some air. So that'll do for that one, and I shall put the label back in, because that is really important, because I could forget it's a Masdevallia, and as it hasn't got a name, you know, I mean, a Masdevallia hybrid on a label is of ultimate importance. And yes, I am mucking about. What this really needs on the back of that label is what the bloom looks like, because I've now got two Masdevallia hybrids, and that's all they are. They're no IDs, but they are quite different. One of them's in bloom at the moment. That's the yellowish one with the creamy sort of patterning, stripes, whatever you want to call it. This one is orange with the purple sheen on it. So, you know, they are quite different, but I'm quite happy that I've got a Masdevallia that looks like that in my grow room. Whether I can maintain Masdevallias looking like that in whatever new grow room I end up in remains to be seen, but I am prepared to work at keeping this collection going. So I've sort of set in my mind that I'm going to a place with a conservatory, but I might not be able to get all of the collection in the conservatory, which means some of it's got to come out and go in more house conditions on windowsills. And I may even set some up in a room with grow lights on timers. Problem is, when it's not your house, running humidifiers might not go down too well when all the walls turn green and the carpet curls over the edges. But it doesn't all have to go in the conservatory. There are people that maintain quite good orchid collections and have no conservatory, no greenhouse, and they manage in their home, in a room. The only downside is, as I've always said, it means you have to go to that room to see your orchids. They're not on view. But if I get the place I'm going to see tomorrow, which is today, remember? Now, I'm probably there by now by the time you're watching this. If I end up there, then it is a large lounge diner with windowsills and areas, like a table could go in front of a window, this sort of thing. So I might end up with some of my collection actually in the property rather than in the conservatory. Quite honestly, that opens up the channel a bit, because I'm sure there's lots of people that like watching the channel, but because my grow space is quite dedicated, and well, most people, I would say, don't grow their orchids like that. They've got them in the home somewhere on the windowsills, you know, table under the windowsill, you know, that sort of thing. The channel's perhaps not quite as relevant as it could be. So having some of the orchids actually in the house, or flat as it is in this case if I get it, might be a bonus. Could actually keep more people interested, because I'm now growing more orchids that way. And if I go down that way, who knows, there might be a few more Phalaenopsis creeping into the collection, because they do well in that environment. Anyway, we shall see. So that's your video for tomorrow, which is now today, and I will see you for the Sunday chat, subject as yet not even thought about, let alone come up with. Thanks for dropping by. See you again.